Hello everyone, this video will cover Module 9. So we are in the second half of the semester now. Module 9 is the first module where you will write and turn in a poem. And so I'll go over what you should be expecting here in this module. So the first thing that you'll see are some more readings to do, some resources that will help you out with this unit. We've got a couple more chapters out of the books to look at, in particular looking at imagery, because we are writing an imagery poem, and I've got some resources here for you as well to take a look at. And then once you're ready to kind of sit down and start working on things, you got two assignments. The first one is a review discussion board, just like we did for the fiction section of the class. We are doing the same thing with poems. You're going to find a poem just out there on the internet or in the textbook. The creative writing textbook, Introduction to Creative Writing, has quite a few just sample poems in it by major authors, that kind of thing. Those are pretty easy to use, or you can look out there on the internet. But you want to make sure that you are finding one written by a professional author, which can sometimes be difficult, even more so than fiction. There's a lot of poetry out there, and not all of it is really poetry worth analyzing in an academic way. We'll just put it that way. So you might just consider that. I have had students use like songs before as well, but really be looking around. A poem would be good. I highly recommend the poets.org website. It is one of the best places to go for any ideas, information, etc. related to poetry. And so you can just go to like find poems or find poets if you have a specific poet that you want to look for. And you can see just all kinds of different poems that are out there, and then click on it and there's the whole text of the poem. So it gives you everything related to some of the information related to the author. It's really useful resource for you. So once you found a poem that you like, you're going to post it on the discussion board. And in a couple of paragraphs, I want you to summarize the poem, just kind of give us an overview of what it's about, and then review it. So review discussion board. The review part's the important part. 2 paragraphs ish, and give us your opinion on the poem, what you learned reading it, why you liked it, that kind of thing. And then the main thing to remember is that you should not be using a poem that somebody else chose. So if you want to sort of save your poem, mark your poem, then hit reply and then put which one you're going to do, and then you can always go back in and edit it. So you edit it when you're ready to fill out your paragraphs. Otherwise, you can kind of claim the poem that way. That way nobody steals yours while you're trying to write out your paragraphs. So the main purpose of this discussion board is, just like with the fiction review, one of our criteria, one of our outcomes for the class is to read professional writing. And so this is part of that outcome, and part of the one of the core components of the class is recognizing when a professional author does something and what it should look like, and how you can take that and use those techniques in your own writing. So that's a discussion board. And the other assignment in this module is your first poem. And so we've practiced some poetic elements already, and now you're getting into the actual first poem assignment. Just like short stories, we did 3 short stories, now you're doing 3 poems. And so your first poem is going to be an imagery poem. You'll see the restrictions on the poems are a lot different from the restrictions on the fiction. And so you will probably feel like you're writing a lot less, but that it may be more difficult. So just kind of keep in mind that you may approach them differently. You may want to start them earlier so you have more time to puzzle over some of the lines, because getting down to individual word choice is often the challenge with poems. So in this case, it's about imagery. So the main component of this style of poem is going to be a focus on imagery. You need to use free verse, so there's no rhyming to this poem. And you've got some options for a topic. It can really be about anything, but there's some suggestions here for things like similar poems from the textbook that you might like, a specific incident at school, a memory from childhood, memory from a childhood toy, something like that. And so what I like about these kind of poems is often you'll see as the poem is written out in free verse, no rhyming, and using a lot of really compelling images. So imagery is related to your senses, right? So using all 5 senses and really like getting into some heavy description, but never within the 10 lines is it actually said what you're describing. The title is what the thing is that's being described. And so there's a lot of poems like that. I think it works really well because it just makes you think about maybe an object in a different way because you're describing it using all of those senses. So you need to have at least 2 distinct images with 2 specific senses that are being used. So don't rely just on what it looks like. For poetry, you want to make sure that it's obviously readable. You can single space it or double space it. And you can make pictures with the wording if you want to, but just try not to go too crazy. Like don't make it weird colors or things like that. It just makes it hard to read the poem on the page. So you want to make sure that it's readable. You can see that most poems, if it doesn't show up like this, with a normal font and normal format, then you're doing too much with the visual there. So we want to make sure that it is kind of regular looking format, if that makes any sense. So your imagery poem, then when you submit it, you submit to the submission spot. Obviously following formatting guidelines, we have a different rubric used for poetry to grade, but it's very similar to what the short story rubric, just different categories because obviously poems are a little bit different. So this will be your first poem that you'll submit. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. Otherwise, have a great week.